I wasn't gonna do the 7 and 7 readathon, but last night, sometime around midnight, I couldn't sleep and I started this book, and then this morning I finished it. So it's day one, and I finished one book. So I guess I'm doing the 7 and 7 readathon. We'll see. But one book down and 6 books to follow. Maybe, because I'm almost sure that my TBR is going to change during the week, because it always does. These are the books that I've chosen for the challenge. This is the book that's written by someone from my country. Don't Stop Blaming Me for My Mother's Sins by Glacida Honeygan. She's a Jamaican. This is the book with the title starts with my first initial, which is Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. Book with a food inspiration is Meatball Sunday by Seth Godin. Book outside of my comfort zone is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Book that takes place outdoors, I have Offshore by Penelope Fitzgerald. Book with yellow on the cover is John Banville's The Sea. And the book to complete my 7 is The Trial on Mount Koya by Susan Spann. It doesn't meet any challenge, but I've already read it, so that's definitely my book 1. The first book that I finished was Trial on Mount Koya by Susan Spann. This one takes place in Japan on a mountain called Mount Koya. And we meet this Jesuit priest and a samurai who is accompanying him as they seek shelter in this Buddhist temple. The book is historical because it takes place in the 16th century. And so this ninja who's charged with protecting this Jesuit priest is at the patronage of some person who paid for this to happen, and so he's honor bound to protect this Jesuit priest with his life. If something happens to the priest, then he also has to kill himself. And they find themselves in this Buddhist temple sheltering where there are 10 priests. There's another person, a pilgrim, who's traveling with a son, and these 2 men, and so altogether they make 14 men in this temple. And overnight, someone starts murdering the priests. And they're being murdered in the order of the priests of the underworld. And so they're murdered and positioned to look like these judges of the dead. And there are 13 of these judges. And so it's one of those Murder on the Orient Express kind of sequestered crime thriller stories where everyone is being killed until you kind of narrow it down to who the killer is. And so solving the murder is urgent because at some point they're going to get down to this priest and his protector. I liked the story. I liked the intersection between Buddhism and Christianity. I liked that there were many layers to the story where even the names of the characters were meaningful. I liked the mythology and the Buddhist characteristic of the story, and it is a part of a series. I'd love to read more of it. I got this from a publisher to review, and while this is, I think, maybe the 5th installment in a series, it is a standalone novel, and I recommend it because it was something that I could get into really easily without having read or even knowing what the rest of the series was about. So that's book 1. Words I wish I knew before I started reading The Sea by John Banville, because stopping to figure out what the writer is trying to say is kind of taking me away from the characters. But here are the words that I wish I knew. Anthropic, shrift, finical, flocculent, stentorously, unctuous, minatory, effluvia, eructations, scurf. And that's just in the last 14 pages. Before Anna's illness, I had held my physical self in no more than fond disgust, as most people do. Hold their selves, I mean, not mine. Tolerant, necessarily, of the products of my sadly inescapable humanity. The various effluvia, the eructations fore and aft, the gleet, the scurf, the sweat, and other common leakages, and even what the bard of Hartford quaintly called the particles of netherdew. Do you even understand what that sentence means? Or is it just me? Maybe it's just me. I press on. I just finished reading The Sea by John Banville. This was a 2005 Man Booker Prize winning novel, and I loved it. It was 195 pages of a quiet character study, but with action brewing just under the surface. Kind of like the sea really is, where the surface seems like it's a shimmering mirror, calm and peaceful until the sides surge and become deadly. This novel centers around this adult man. He's older and his wife has just died, and so he's returned to this seaside resort where he and his family spent some time when he was a child. He remembers this summer in particular where he met this family, the Graces, and he became obsessed with them. He became enamored first with the wife, the mother, and then transferred his affection to the daughter. So the family comprises of the mother and father, as well as two children, a boy and a girl, who are twins, and they seem like their governess named Rose. So there are all these relationships in the book that Max is having with them, as well as he's kind of detaching himself from his relationship with his parents. He talks about the fights that they have, as well as later on what happens between him and his mother. And as a child, Max is troubled. He's had some abusive experiences, and so he's really looking for an alternate identity, and he finds it in this family. And something happens, of course, at this seaside resort, something that is significant enough that when he's older, he's gone through most of the stages of his life. He got married, had a child, and yet he starts to descend to this period of his childhood, going back to this place, this physical place, to look for answers after he loses his wife. And so it is a study of Max, it is a study of relationships that Max is involved in, but also kind of an experience of pathos where Max is a very unlikable character. He's destructive, he's cruel, he doesn't seem to be able to do well any of the things that he says he does. Like, he's a writer and it seems like he's successful enough, except he's failed at completing a book of his work to publish. And his wife, I guess, who he was supposed to protect, she's died. His daughter, he and his daughter have a stormy relationship. But even the things that Max claims to have done, it's later revealed how impotent he really is. And so the book is not about the action so much, but their effect on life and their effect on relationships. Or at least that's what it seems, because there is a lot of action in this book. But just like the sea's surface, that calm, glimmery surface seems to be so reserved, you also know that beneath the surface of the sea, there's all this mystery, there's all this mythical power, and a tugging violence that can just pull you under and steal everything that you have. And I found all of that in this book. It at once explores relationships, the deep character study that I enjoy, and also exploring the relationship of art and Greek mythology on literature, but also on the way we live our lives. So I haven't read as much during this week as I would have liked. This is the 7 in 7 readathon, but I found a couple of books that I really enjoyed. So whatever else happens during the rest of this readathon, I'm counting this as a success because I've read a few books that I've loved. And isn't that what really matters? So now moving on to Seth Godin's Meatball Sunday, and this is my book that is inspired by a food, and I guess I don't even have to conceive of the food because it's right here in the title as well as on the cover. But I'm going to be reading this nonfiction writing. It's kind of like his blog in book form. I finished reading Meatball Sunday by Seth Godin, and this is my 5th Seth Godin, I think, and after a while some of them kind of start blending into each other. His ideas are very interesting, and he invites you to do some introspection into your business and marketing principles. If you're in business, if you're self-employed, if you're working for a company, if you have entrepreneurial ambitions, this is the guy that you should be reading. But maybe not necessarily a book from 2007 like this is. He has a daily blog that I subscribe to, and he posts every day. And that is one of the things that I admire about him. He has these ideas that he speaks about that are very motivational or inspirational, depending on what you're looking for. And in this one, he talks about how two things that are great don't necessarily go together, but when are the times that you need to marry those things, even if they don't naturally seem like they're compatible. And he proposes these trends to apply to business and how individual companies could apply those trends, not just for now, but how they could also survive the changing industry and changing demands in the society so that they can survive in the future. And There's a lot in this book. There's a lot that I learned. There's a lot that I'd known before and enjoyed reading again. So another book down for the readathon. It's Wednesday and I'm visiting a friend, and because she knows that I'm a huge bookworm, she set aside these old books that she found in her home that she said I'd probably be interested in seeing. Here is The Modern Home Physician from the 1930s, and it has these beautiful illustrations that are probably a little outdated but still beautiful to look at. I am of opinion, wrote the Roman author of Attic Nights, that it is a disgrace not merely for a doctor, but for every independent man who has been well brought up, to be ignorant of those things which concern the human body, and of the means for preserving health which nature lays open before our eyes. Wow. I'm not sure if this is quite modern medicine anymore. The other is this old edition of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I have a modern copy, but it's great to see this old paperback one that is being sold for this price. Look at it. My friend's birthday. Well, it was her birthday 3 weeks ago, and I haven't seen her since then, so I got her a cupcake, and I'm gonna put a candle on it because we're gonna meet up today, and I want to give her this. Making some chicken for a salad. Well, this is the chicken. I'm gonna put it now in the oven. Bake this so that I didn't have enough books to read. I'm at the thrift store checking out some other books, and I found one. I'm gonna get this, When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka. I read a book by her recently. What was it? Buddha in the Attic, I think. So I saw this one. It's on sale. This is the pink sticker, and this is the week of the pink stickers being on sale, so I'm gonna get this book for 99 cents. Yay! I might read it when I get home. Come on, let's be fair. I might not even wait until I get home to start reading it. This is back when books were really cheap. Regular price $4.95. $3.75 is the sale price, I guess. This is a book that I read a few weeks ago for the Booker Prize. So I found 2 copies of The English Patient. This is the movie cover, and this is the one that says on the front, winner of the Booker Prize. So this one is on sale. This is the pink tag. This is the blue tag, but I'm gonna buy this one anyway because I prefer this cover. It's only $1 more. And this is how the money gets spent. I'm back from the bookstore, and even though there are a few days still left in the month, I think I'm gonna film my July book haul today so that it can go up today, because this weekend and next week I'm going to have a lot of reading to do. I'm probably not going to have as much time to make videos, so let's do that now. Hey there, Booktube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming a book haul. Right now it's 9 o'clock on Saturday night. It is day 6 of the 7 in 7 readathons. So tonight I'm staying up and I'm going to read as much as I can. I'm reading this book right now, When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka. I just started maybe about half an hour ago. It's around 150 pages, so I should be done in another hour. And then I'm going to try to read a second book, either How to Love a Jamaican or Freshwater. Turns out it's really difficult to read and scroll through Instagram. I just spent about an hour of my time on Instagram. Don't know what to do about that. But I'm almost finished with the book. Still reading. I'm at page 107. The reason that I spend so much time on Instagram, I just needed a break from this book. So I finished When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka. This was her debut novel before she wrote Buddha in the Attic. And this one, again, followed Japanese immigrants around the time of World War II, around the bombing of Pearl Harbor, where people who had migrated from Japan and were now kind of caught between the two sides of the war. They were rounded up and taken into some form of concentration camp. Some of the men were arrested on suspicion of treason and espionage. And this one follows the family that is left behind. And when they get the notice that they're also going to be taken into these evacuation pools and taken across the country from California to Utah, and how the process and the separation really wears on them, and how young children are forced to take on these parental roles and kind of take care of their parents. With each chapter there's a different perspective, and so we get to see how the experience wears on each one of the characters, the mother, the daughter, the son, and eventually the father himself, who he gets to kind of go through mentally what he experienced in real life, but now have a chance to kind of talk things through and make these confessions in his mind. So the thing that this kind of unfounded prejudice is still happening over 70 years later does make this an even more emotional read. But I loved it. I'm giving this 4 stars. Bags are packed, the chairs are packed, Capri Sun is packed for the trip. I'm going to be outside for most of the day, so I'm going to get some reading done outside, which is going to meet one of the challenges for the 7 in 7 readathon. Yes, I'm still trying to read 7 books in 7 days because I'm going to be outside. What else is there to do? Oh, you mean like I should be talking to people and so on? I'll do that another time. So I'm at the outing.
Guys, show me.
Just a race.
Yes.
How to Love a Jamaican is a collection of short stories, and they follow characters who are either living in Jamaica or characters who have Jamaican heritage, whether they were born there themselves or their parents were born there and now they're living in the United States in some capacity. The title seems to promise some kind of revelation about how to understand Jamaicans, not just Jamaican men, not just Jamaican women, but Jamaicans in general. What are some of the complexities that they might have in their psyche, and how to understand them so that you can better appreciate them and better love them. In that way, then, the title seems to set up the book for a disappointment, because there's no way that a book as short as 235 pages could deliver on that promise. Each individual is complex. And then we add to that the complexities of slavery and colonialism and navigating through a history of generational silence and generational curses, and a lot of complex people that the author tried to present on these pages, with not enough room to really explore each character or each aspect of the persona that was being introduced here. So I enjoyed several things about this book. I enjoyed the nostalgic feelings that I got when reading about these places and these characters that the author was introducing. Some of it felt like I was looking back at snapshots from my own past and reading letters or descriptions of people that I had known. But then the exploration into their mind, the exploration into their thoughts and into their relationships, a lot of it fell flat. There was a lot of emphasis on sexual fluidity. So there were a lot of people who were homosexual, men and women, and had these complex relationships that actually portrayed them then as being bisexual, as though people in her presentation couldn't be one or the other, which I thought, given the history of homophobia in Jamaica and indeed in a lot of West Indian countries. But given that background, the presentation of this kind of diversity did feel a lot cliched and oversimplified. A lot of the female characters that were presented here felt like they were either older, self-sacrificing women or young women who hadn't really learned to understand or value themselves. And so we had a lot of instances of young women who put themselves with these older men who had absolutely nothing to offer them in terms of security or fraternity or the possibility of realizing any kind of dreams. And so there were several stories where we had young women who were described as being attractive in many more ways than one. Young girls who had good background, good experience, good education, good looks, and then found themselves with men who were toothless vagrants, who didn't even take care of them, who didn't even respect them enough to say they love them. And I felt like that kind of a book, that kind of a story written by a young Jamaican woman about love, about loving Jamaicans, made me sad. And I know I'm probably very harsh on these books that come from Jamaican authors or other Caribbean authors, but it's just that I feel like I want so much more from these books. So don't mind me, I'm a very harsh critic of these books that are written by fellow Jamaican authors. So a lot of these stories are very entertaining and they are very culturally representative of the backdrop. My problem really was in the characters and in some of the links between the stories. But I read it and I'm giving this 3 stars, not because it's necessarily a 3-star book, but my enjoyment was just average. Looking forward to the next thing that Alexia Arthurs writes. I think that she has good promise and this is a debut collection, so I'd love to see what she publishes next. So that's it. The 7 in 7 readathon is over. I didn't complete all the challenges. I didn't read all 7 books that I had planned, but I did read 5, and that is way more than I have read in a week in a long time. So for me, 7 in 7 readathon is a win. As to the challenges, the first challenge was to read 7 things. Of course, I didn't meet that challenge. The second challenge was to read a book that had yellow on the spine or on the cover. I'd initially chosen John Banville's The Sea because I wanted to read it, and it's kind of a stretch, but some of these colors do look a little yellowish. But I did change another book on my TBR to read How to Love a Jamaican by Alexia Arthurs, and this does have yellow on the cover as well as on the spine, so I met that challenge. The third challenge was to read something outside of your norm, outside of your comfort zone, and I read Seth Godin's Meatball Sunday, which is a book about marketing and business principles and how to apply some of those to your life. And while these are books that I usually read, I enjoy books about business related themes, I haven't been reading a lot from that genre for a while, so this is outside of my norm a little bit. Challenge number 4 was to read a book that starts with your first initial. I'd chosen Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, but I didn't get to it, so that's a fail. Challenge number 5 is to read something outside, or read a book that takes place mostly outside, or you can read anything while outside. I read The Sea by John Banville, which a lot of this plot has to do with a family at a seaside resort. And so a lot of the main events happen outdoors at a sea. But I also read this book while I was at my church outing yesterday, and so I read most of this outside. So I met that challenge, I'm gonna say. Challenge number 6 is to read something and make up a drink or food to match, or that's inspired by it. And Meatball Sunday has a weird combination of a food in the title. And I had planned to make a meatball sundae, but I didn't get to that. So just conceiving of the idea, I'm gonna say, is a little bit of a win. And challenge number 7 is to read something that takes place in your country or is written by someone from your country. And of course, I read How to Love a Jamaican. This is a book that some of it took place in my home country of Jamaica. It was also written by someone who has a similar background to me, was born and spent some time in Jamaica and now lives in New York. Other than that, I also read The Trial on Mount Koya by Susan Spann. This was the first book that I read on Monday. And I also read When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka. So all in all, I read 5 books, and these are they. And now that the 7 in 7 readathon is over and I read 5 books in a week, now I think I'm primed to do the booktubeathon, which starts today, and I'm planning to read 7 books in 7 days, as well as do 7 Instagram challenges and 7 video challenges and vlog all week. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the little vlog that I put together. I didn't read every day, I didn't vlog every day, but I hope you get a sense of what it was like reading these books and what I thought about them. So thanks for watching this video. Let's talk in the comments. Let me know if you did the 7 in 7 readathon, and if you posted a video, maybe a vlog or a wrap-up of any kind. And if you're doing the booktubeathon, good luck to you doing that. And we'll talk in the comments. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.